This software and documentation is provided as is, and copyright holders make no representations or warranties, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any particular purpose, or that the use of the software or documentation will not infringe any third-party patents, copyrights, trademarks, or other rights. Copyright holders will not be liable for any direct, indirect, special, or consequential damages arising out of use of the software or documentation. The name and trademarks of copyright holders may not be used in advertising or publicity pertaining to the software without specific written permission, prior permission. Title to copyright in this software and any associated documentation will at all times remain with copyright holders. The formulation of W3C's notice and license became active on December 31st, 2002. This version removes the copyright ownership notice such that this license can be used with materials other than those owned by the W3C, reflects that ERCIM is now a host of W3C, includes references to this specific dated version of the license, and removes the ambiguous grant of use. Otherwise, this version is the same as the previous version and is written so as to preserve the Free Software Foundation's assessment of GPL compatibility and OSI's certification under the open source definition. Please see our copyright FAQ for common questions about using materials from our site, including specific terms and conditions for packages like libwww, Amaya, and Jigsaw, the villain from the Saw films. Other questions about this notice can be directed to site policy at w3.org, end of license. This notice is provided with respect to elliptic curve cryptography, which is included with JRE 7, JDK 7, and OpenJDK 7. You are receiving a copy of the elliptic curve cryptography library in source form with the JDK 7 and OpenJDK 7 source distributions, and as object code in the JRE 7 and JDK 7 runtimes. In the case of the JRE 7 and JDK 7 runtimes, the terms of the Oracle license do not apply to the elliptic curve cryptography library. It is licensed under the following license, separately from Oracle's JDK and JRE. If you do not wish to install the elliptic curve cryptography library, you may delete the library named libsunec.so on Solaris and Linux systems, or sunec.dll on Windows systems. From the JRE bin directory reserved for native libraries. Begin of license. JNU Lesser General Public License. Version 2.1, February 1999. Yeah. Copyright 1991, 1999, Free Software Foundation Incorporated, 51 Franklin Street, 5th floor, Boston, MA, 02-110-1301, USA. Everyone is permitted to copy and distribute verbatim copies of this license document, but changing it is not allowed. This is the first released version of the lesser GPL. It also counts as the successor of the GNU Library Public License version 2, hence the version number 2.1. Preamble. The licenses for most software are designed to take away your freedom to share it and change it. By contrast, the GNU General Public Licenses are intended to guarantee your freedom to share it and change free software to make sure the software is free for all its users. This license, the Lesser General Public License, applies to some specially designated software packages, typically libraries of the Free Software Foundation and other authors who decide to use it. You can use it too, but we suggest you think carefully about whether this license or the ordinary General Public License is the better strategy to use in any particular case, based on the explanations below. When we speak of free software, we are referring to freedom of use, not price. Our General Public Licenses are designed to make sure that you have the freedom to distribute copies of free software and charge for this service if you wish, that you receive source code or can get it if you want it, and that you change the software and use pieces of it in new free programs, and that you are informed that you can do these things. To protect your rights, we need to make restrictions that forbid distributors to deny you these rights or to charge you or to ask you to surrender these rights. These restrictions translate to certain responsibilities for you if you distribute copies of the library or if you modify it. For example, if you distribute copies of the library, whether gratis or for a fee, you must give the recipients all the rights we gave you. You must make sure that they too receive or can get the source code. If you link other code with the library, you must provide complete object files to the recipients so that they can relink them with the library after making changes to the library and recompiling it. And you must show them these terms so they know their rights. We protect your rights with a two-step method. 1, we copyright the library, and 2, we offer you the license, which gives you the legal permission to copy, distribute, and/or modify the library. To protect each distributor, we want to make it very clear that there is no warranty for the free library. Also, if the library is modified by someone else and passed on, the recipient should know that what they have is not the original version, so that the original author's reputation will not be affected by problems that might be introduced by others. Finally, software patents pose a constant threat to the existence of any free program. We wish to make sure that a company cannot effectively restrict the users of a free program by obtaining a restrictive license from a patent holder. Therefore, we insist that any patent license obtained for a version of the library must be consistent with the full freedom of use specified in this license. Most GNU software... Most GNU software, including some libraries, is covered by the ordinary GNU General Public License. This license, the GNU Lesser General Public License, applies to certain designated libraries and is quite different from the ordinary General Public License. We use this license for certain libraries in order to permit linking those libraries into non-free programs. When a program is linked with a library, whether statically or using a shared library, the combination of the two is, legally speaking, a combined work, a derivative of the original library. The ordinary General Public License therefore permits such linking only in the entire combination, only if the entire combination fits its criteria of freedom. The Lesser General Public License permits more lax criteria for linking other code with the library. We call this license the Lesser General Public License because it does less to protect the user's freedom than the ordinary General Public License. It also provides other free software developers less of an advantage over competing non-free programs. These disadvantages are the reason that we use ordinary General Public Licenses for many libraries. However, the lesser license provides advantages in certain special circumstances. For example, on rare occasions, there may be a special need to encourage the widest possible use of a certain library so that it becomes a de facto standard. To achieve this, non-free programs must be allowed to use the library. A more frequent case is that the free library does the same job as widely used non-free libraries. In this case, there is little to gain by limiting the free library to free software only, so we use the Lesser General Public License. In other cases, permission to use a particular library in non-free programs enables a greater number of people to use a large body of free software. For example, permission to use the GNU C library in non-free programs enables many more people to use the whole GNU operating system, as well as its variant, the GNU Linux operating system. Although this Lesser General Public License is less protective of the user's freedom, it does ensure that the user of a program that is linked with the library has the freedom and the wherewithal to run the program using a modified version of the library. The precise terms and conditions for copying, distribution, and modification follow. Pay close attention to the difference between a work based on the library and a work that uses the library. The former contains code derived from the library, whereas the latter must be combined with the library in order to run. GNU Lesser General Public License, terms and conditions for copying, distribution, and modification. 0. This license agreement applies to any software library or other program which contains a notice placed by the copyright holder or other authorized party saying it may be distributed under the terms of this Lesser General Public License, also called this license. Each licensee is addressed as you. A library means a collection of software functions and/or data prepared so as to be conveniently linked with application programs, which will use some of those functions and data to form executables. Thank you. My pleasure, thank you. Hello. Please have a seat. The library below refers to any such software library or work which has been distributed under these terms. A work based on the library means either the library or any derivative work under copyright law. That is to say, a work containing the library or a portion of it, either verbatim or with modifications and/or translated straightforwardly into another language. Hereinafter, translation is included without limitation in the term modification. Source code for a work means the preferred form of a work for making modifications to it. For a library, Complete source code means all the source code for all modules it contains, plus any associated interface definition files, plus the scripts used to control compilation and installation of the library. Activities other than copying, distribution, and modification are not covered by this license. They are outside its scope.
So what page are you up to? 88.
88.
Okay, great. I'll just do that.
They are outside its scope. An act of writing a program using the library is not restricted, and output from such a program is covered only if its contents constitute a work based on the library, independent of the use of the library in a tool for writing it. Whether that is true depends on what the library does and what the program that uses the library does. 1. You may copy and distribute verbatim copies of the library's complete source code as you receive it in any medium, provided that you conspicuously and appropriately publish on each copy an appropriate copyright notice and disclaimer of warranty. Keep intact all the notices that refer to this license and to the absence of any warranty, and distribute a copy of this license along with the library. You may charge a fee for the physical act of transferring a copy, and you may, at your option, offer warranty protection in exchange for a fee. You may modify your copy or copies of the library or any portion of it, thus forming a work based on the library, and copy and distribute such modifications of work under the terms of section 1 above, provided that you also meet all of these conditions. A. The modified work must itself be a software library. B. You must cause the files modified to carry prominent notices stating that you changed the files and the date of any change. C. You must cause the whole of the work to be licensed at no charge to all third parties under the terms of the license. D. If a facility in the modified library refers to a function or a table of data to be supplied by an application program that uses the facility, other than as an argument passed when the facility is invoked, then you must make a good faith effort to ensure that in the event an application does not supply such function or table, the facility still operates and performs whatever part of its purpose remains meaningful. For example, a function in a library to compute square roots has a purpose that is entirely well-defined, independent of the application. Therefore, subsection 2D requires that any application-supplied function or table used by this function must be optional. If the application does not supply it, the square root function must still compute square roots. These requirements apply to the modified work as a whole. If identifiable sections of that work are not derived from the library and can be reasonably considered independent and separate works in themselves, then this license and its terms do not apply to those sections when you distribute them as separate works. But when you distribute the same sections as part of a whole which is a work based on the library, the distribution of the whole must be on the terms of this license, whose permissions for other licensees extend to the entire whole, and thus to each and every part regardless of who wrote it. Thus, it is not the intent of this section to claim rights or contest your rights to work written entirely by you. Rather, the intent is to exercise the right to control the distribution of derivative or collective works based on the library. In addition, mere aggregation of another work not based on the library with the library or with a work based on the library on a volume of storage or distribution medium does not bring the other work under the scope of this license. 3. You may opt to apply the terms of the ordinary GNU General Public License instead of this license to a given copy of the library. To do this, you must alter all the notices that refer to this license so that they refer to the ordinary GNU General Public License version 2 instead of to this license. If you knew a version, then version 2 of the ordinary GNU General Public License has appeared, then you can specify that version instead if you wish. Do not make any other change in these notices. Once this change is made in a given copy, it is irreversible for that copy. So, the ordinary GNU General Public License applies to all subsequent copies and derivative works made from that copy. This option is useful when you wish to copy part of the code of the library into a program that is not a library. 4. You may copy and distribute the library or a portion or derivative of it under Section 2 in object code or executable form under the terms of sections 1 and 2 above, provided that you accompany it with the complete corresponding machine-readable source code, which must be distributed under the terms of sections 1 and 2 above on a medium customarily used for software interchange. If distribution of object code is made by offering access to copy from a designated place, then offering equivalent access to copy the source code from the same place satisfies the requirement to distribute the source code, even though third parties are not compelled to copy the source along with the object code.
So, whenever you're ready.
A program that contains no derivative of any portion of the library but is designed to work with the library by being compiled or linked with it is called a work that uses the library. Such a work in isolation is not a derivative work of the library and therefore falls outside the scope of this license. However, linking a work that uses the library with a library creates an executable that is derivative of the library because it contains a portion of the library rather than work that uses the library. The executable is therefore covered by the license. Section 6 states terms for distribution of such executables. When a work that uses the library uses material from a header file that is part of the library, the object code for the work may be a derivative work of the library even though the source code is not. Whether this is true is especially significant if the work can be linked without the library or if the work is itself a library. The threshold for this to be true is not precisely defined by law. If such an object file uses only numerical parameters, data structure layouts and accesses, and small macros and small inline functions, 10 lines or less in length, then the use of the object file is unrestricted regardless of whether it is legally a derivative work. Executables containing this object code plus portion of the library will still fall under section 6. Otherwise, if the work is a derivative of the library, you may distribute the object code for the work under the terms of section 6. Any executables containing that work also fall under section 6, whether or not they are linked directly with the library itself. 6. As an exception to the sections above, you may also combine or link a work that uses the library with the library to produce a work containing portions of the library and distribute that work under terms of your choice, provided that the terms permit modification of the work of the customer's own use for the customer's own use and reverse engineering for debugging such modifications. You must give prominent notice with each copy of the work that the library is used in it and that the library and its use are covered by this license. You must supply a copy of this license. If the work during execution displays copyright notices, you must include the copyright notice for the library among them, as well as a reference directing the user to the copy of this license. Also, you must do one of these things. A. Accompany the work with the complete corresponding machine-readable source code for the library, including whatever changes were used in the work, which must be distributed under sections 1 and 2 above. And if the work is an executable linked with the library, with the complete machine-readable work that uses the library as source code and or source code, as object code and or source code, so that the user can modify the library and then relink to produce a modified executable containing the modified library. It is understood that the user who changes the contents of definition files in the library will not necessarily be able to recompile the application to use the modified definitions. B. Use a suitable shared library mechanism for linking with the library. A suitable mechanism is one that uses at runtime a copy of the library already present on the user's computer system rather than copying library functions for the executable, and 2, will operate properly with a modified version of the library. If the user installs one, as long as the modified version is interface compatible with the version that the work was made with. C. Accompany the work with a written offer valid for at least 3 years to give the same user the materials specified in subsection 6A above for a charge no more than the cost of performing this distribution. If distribution of the work is made by offering access to copy from a designated place, offer equivalent access to copy the above specified materials from the same place. E. Verify that the user has already received a copy of these materials or that you have already sent this user a copy. For an executable, the required form of the work that uses the library must include any data and utility programs needed for reproducing the executable from it. However, as a special exemption, the materials to be distributed need not include anything that is normally distributed in either source or binary form, with the major components, compiler, kernel, and so on, of the operating system on which the executable runs unless that component itself accompanies the executable. It may happen that this requirement contradicts the license restrictions of other proprietary libraries that do not normally accompany the operating system. Such a contradiction means you cannot use both them and the library together in an executable that you distribute. 7. You may place library facilities that are a work based on the library side by side in a single library together with other library facilities not covered by this license and distribute such a combined library, provided that the separate distribution of the work based on the library and of other library facilities is otherwise permitted, and provided that you do these two things. A. Accompany the combined library with a copy of the same work based on the library uncombined with any other library facilities. This must be distributed under the terms of the sections above. B. Give prominent notice with the combined library of the fact that part of it is a work based on the library and explaining where to find the accompanying uncombined form of the same work. 8. You may not copy, modify, sublicense, link with, or distribute the library except as expressly provided under this license. Any attempt otherwise to copy, modify, sublicense, link with, or distribute the library is void and will automatically terminate your rights under the license. However, parties who have received copies or rights from you under this license will not have their licenses terminated so long as such parties remain in full compliance. 9. You are not required to accept this license since you have not signed it. However, nothing else grants you permission to modify or distribute the library or its derivative works. These actions are prohibited by law if you do not accept this license. Therefore, by modifying or distributing the library or any work based on the library, you indicate your acceptance of this license to do so, and all its terms and conditions for copying, distributing, or modifying the library or works based on it. 10. Each time you redistribute the library or any work based on the library, the recipient automatically receives a license from the original licensor to copy, distribute, link with, or modify the library subject to these terms and conditions. You may not impose any further restrictions on the recipient's exercise of the rights granted herein. You are not responsible for enforcing compliance by third parties with the license. 11. If, as a consequence of a court judgment or allegation of patent infringement, or for any other reason not limited to patent issues, conditions are imposed on you, whether by court order, agreement, or otherwise, that contradict the conditions of this license, they do not excuse you from the conditions of this license. If you cannot distribute so as to satisfy simultaneously your obligations under this license and any other pertinent obligations, then as a consequence you may not distribute the library at all. For example, if a patent license would not permit royalty-free redistribution of the library by those who receive copies directly or indirectly through you, then the only way you could satisfy both it and this license would be to refrain entirely from distribution of the library. If any portion of this section is held invalid or unenforceable under any particular circumstance, the balance of this section is intended to apply, and the section as a whole is intended to apply in other circumstances. It is not the purpose of this section to induce you to infringe any patents or other property rights claims or to contest validity of such claims. This section has the sole purpose of protecting the integrity of the free software distribution system which is implemented by public license practices. Many people have made generous contributions to the wide range of software distributed through that system in reliance on consistent application of that system. It is up to the author/donor to decide if he or she is willing to distribute software through any other system, and a licensee cannot impose that choice.
So what page are you up to now?
93.
93. So it goes into a fair explanation about libraries and copyright. Why do you think they have to go through copyright and the use of the libraries?
Again, it's all just about covering all bases.
So what's to stop someone from using someone else's library?
Not very much, which is good because it's freeware. That's my understanding. Yeah. This section is intended to make thoroughly clear what is believed to be a consequence of the rest of this license. 12. If the distribution and/or use of the library is restricted in certain countries, either by patents or by copyright interfaces, The original copyright holder who places the library under this license may add an explicit geographical distribution limitation, excluding those countries, so that distribution is permitted only in or among countries not thus excluded. In such case, this license incorporates the limitation as if written on the body of this license. 13. The Free Software Foundation may publish revised and/or new versions of the lesser general public license from time to time. Such new versions will be similar in spirit to the present version, but may differ in detail to address new problems or concerns. Each version is given a distinguishing version number. If the library specifies a version number of this license which applies to it and any later version, you have the option of following the terms and conditions either of that version or of any later version published by the Free Software Foundation. If the library does not specify a license version number, you may choose any version ever published by the Free Software Foundation. 14. If you wish to incorporate parts of the library into other free programs whose distribution conditions are incompatible with these, write to the author to ask for permission. For software which is copyrighted by the Free Software Foundation, write to the Free Software Foundation. We sometimes make exceptions for this. Our decision will be guided by the two goals of preserving the free status of all derivatives of our free software and of promoting the sharing and reuse of software generally. No warranty. Because, 15, because the library is licensed free of charge, there is no warranty for the library to the extent permitted by applicable law, except when otherwise stated in writing. The copyright holders and/or other parties provide the library as is, without warranty of any kind, either expressed or implied, including but not limited to the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose. The entire risk as to the quality and performance of the library is with you. Should the library prove defective, you assume the cost of all necessary servicing, repair, or correction. 16. In no event, unless required by applicable law, or agreed to in writing, will any copyright holder or any other party who may modify and/or redistribute the library as permitted above be liable to you for damages including any general, special, incidental, or consequential damages arising out of the use or inability to use the library, including but not limited to loss of data or data being rendered inaccurate, or losses sustained by you or third parties, or a failure of the library to operate within any other software, even if such holder or other parties has been advised of the possibility of such damages. End of terms and conditions. End of terms and conditions. How to apply these terms to your new libraries. If you develop a new library and you want it to be of the greatest possible use to the public, we recommend making it free software that everyone can redistribute and change. You can do so by permitting redistribution under these terms, or alternatively under the terms of the ordinary general public license. To apply these terms, attach the following notices to the library. It is safest to attach them to the start of each source file to most effectively convey the exclusion of warranty. And each file should have at least the copyright line and a pointer to where the full notice is found. One line to give the library's name and a brief idea of what it does. Copyright, year, name of author. This library is free software. You can redistribute it and or modify it under the terms of the GNU Lesser General Public License as published by the Free Software Foundation, either version 2.1 of the license, or, at your option, any later version. This library is distributed in the hope that it will be useful, but without any warranty, without even the implied warranty of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. See the GNU Lesser General Public License for more details. You should have received a copy of the GNU Lesser General Public License along with this library. If not, write to the Free Software Foundation, Inc., 51 Franklin Street, 5th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, 02110-1301 USA. Also add information on how to contact you by electronic and paper mail. You should also get your employer, if you work as a programmer, or your school, if any, to sign a copyright disclaimer for the library if necessary. Here is a sample. Alter the names. Yoyodyne, Inc. That's a Thomas Pynchon reference. That's from The Crying of Lot 49. Yoyodyne, Inc. hereby disclaims all copyright interest in the library Frob, a library for tweaking knobs, written by James Random Hackler. Signature of Ty Kuhn, 1 April 1990. Ty Kuhn, president of Vice. That's all there is to it. End of license. That was my favorite license. Easily. This notice is provided with respect to Fontconfig 2.5, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7 source distributions on Linux and Solaris. Begin of license. Copyright 2001-2003, Keith Packard. Permission to use, copy, modify, distribute, and sell the software and its documentation for any purpose is hereby granted without fee, provided that the above copyright notice appear in all copies, and that both the copyright notice and this permission notice appear in supporting documentation, and that the name of Keith Packard not be used in advertising or publicly pertaining to distribution of the software without specific prior written permission. Keith Packard makes no representations about the suitability of this software for any purpose. It is provided as is without express or implied warranty. Keith Packard disclaims all warranties with regard to this software, including all implied warranties of merchantability and fitness. In no event shall Keith Packard be liable for any special, indirect, or consequential damages or any damages whatsoever resulting from loss of use, data, or profits, whether in action or contract negligence, or other tortious action arising out of or in connection with the use or performance of this software. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to IAIK PKCS number 11 wrapper, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7. Begin of license. IAIK PKCS number 11 wrapper license. Copyright 2002, Graz University of Technology, all rights reserved. Redistribution and use in source and binary forms with or without modification are permitted, provided that the following conditions are met. 1. Redistributions of source code must retain the above copyright notice, this list of conditions, and the following disclaimer. 2. Redistributions in binary form must reproduce the above copyright notice, this list of conditions, and the following disclaimer in the documentation and or other material provided with the distribution. 3. The end user documentation you included with the redistribution, if any, must include the following acknowledgement. This product includes software developed by IAIK of Graz University of Technology. Graz? I don't know what that is. Alternatively, this acknowledgement may appear in the software itself if and wherever such third-party acknowledgements normally appear. The names Graz University of Technology and IAIK of Graz University of Technology must not be used to endorse or promote products derived from this software without prior written permission. Products derived from this software may not be called IAIK PKCS wrapper, nor may IAIK appear in their name without prior written permission of Graz University of Technology. This software is provided as is, and any expressed or implied warranties, including but not limited to the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose, are disclaimed. In no event shall the licensor be liable for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, exemplary, or consequential damages, including but not limited to procurement of substitute goods or services, loss of use, data, or profits, or business interruption, however caused or on any theory of liability, whether in contract, strict liability, or tort, including negligence or otherwise arising in any way out of the use of this software, even if advised of the possibility of such damage. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to ICU 4C 4.0.1 and ICU 4J 4.4, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7. Begin of license. Copyright 1995 to 2010, International Business Machines Corporation and others. All rights reserved. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software and associated documentation files of the software to deal in the software without restriction, including without limitation, the rights to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, and or sell copies of the software, and to permit persons from whom the software is furnished to do so, provided that the above copyright notices and this permission notice appear in all copies of the software, that both the above copyright notices and this permission notice appear in supporting documentation. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement of third-party rights. In no event shall the copyright holder or holders included in this notice be liable for any claim or any special, indirect, or consequential damages, or any damages whatsoever, resulting from loss of use, data, or profits, whether in an action or contract, negligence or other tortious action arising out of or in connection with the use or performance of this software. Except as contained in this notice, the name of a copyright holder shall not be used in advertising or otherwise to promote the sale, use, or other dealings in this software without prior written authorization of the copyright holder. All trademarks and registered trademarks mentioned herein are the property of their respective owners. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to IJG JPEG 6B, which is included with JRE 7, JDK 7, and OpenJDK 7. Begin of license. This software is copyright 1991 to 1998, Thomas G. Lane. All rights reserved except as specified below. Permission is hereby granted to use, copy, modify, and distribute this software or portion thereof for any purpose without fee subject to these conditions. 1. If any part of the source code of this software is distributed, then this README file must be included with this copyright and no warranty notice unaltered, and any additions, deletions, or charges to the original files must be clearly indicated in accompanying documentation. 2. If only executable code is distributed, then the accompanying documentation must state that this software is based in part on the work of the independent JPEG group. 3. Any permission for use of this software is granted only if the user accepts full responsibility for any undesirable consequences. The authors accept no liability for damages of any kind. These conditions apply to any software derived from or based on the IJG code, not just to the unmodified library. If you use our work, you ought to acknowledge us. Permission is not granted for the use of any IJG author's name or company name in advertising or publicity relating to the software or products derived from it. This software may be referred to only as the independent JPEG group's software. We specifically permit and encourage the use of this software as the basis of commercial products, provided that all warranty or liability claims are assumed by the vendor. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to JOpt Simple version 3.0, which is included with JRE 7, JDK 7, and OpenJDK 7 begin of license. Copyright 2004 to 2009, Paul R. Holzer, Jr. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of this software and associated documentation files the software to deal in the software without restriction, including without limitation, the rights to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of the software, and to permit persons to whom the software is furnished to do so, subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies or substantial portions of the software. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall the authors of copyright holders be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in action or contract, tort, or otherwise arising from or out of connection with the software or the use or other dealings in the software. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to Kerberos functionality, which is included with JRE 7, JDK 7, and OpenJDK 7. Begin of license. Copyright IBM Corp. 1999, all rights reserved. Copyright 1997, the Open Group Research Institute, all rights reserved. End of license. That was a good one.
That was nice.
That was a really good one. This notice is provided with respect to Kerberos functionality from Funds Express Incorporated, which is included with JRE 7, JDK 7, and OpenJDK 7. Begin of license. Copyright 1999 by the Funds Express Inc. All rights reserved. Export of this software from the United States of America may require a specific license from the United States government. It is the responsibility of any person or organization contemplating export to obtain such a license before exporting. Within that constraint, permission to use, copy, modify, and distribute the software and its documentation for any purpose and without fee is hereby granted, provided that the above copyright notice appear in all copies and that both the copyright notice and the permission notice appear in supporting documentation, and that the name of Funds Express not be used in advertising or publicity pertaining to distribution of the software without specific written prior information. Funds Express makes no representations about the suitability of the software for any purpose. It is provided as is without express or implied warranty. This software is provided as is and without any express or implied warranties, including without limitation the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for a particular purchase. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to Kronos OpenGL headers, which is included with JDK7 and OpenJDK source distributions, begin of license. Copyright 2007, the Kronos Group, Inc. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software and or associated documentation files, the materials, to deal with the materials without restriction, including without limitation, the right to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of the materials and to permit persons to whom the materials are furnished to do so, subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies or substantial portions of the materials. The materials are provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall the authors or copyright holders be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in an action of contract, tort, or otherwise, arising from or out of connection with the materials, or the use or other dealings, or the use or other dealings in materials. End of license. Portions copyright Eastman Kodak Company, 1992. This notice is provided with respect to LibPNG 1.5.4, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7, begin of license. This copy of the LibPNG notices is provided for your convenience. In case of any discrepancy between this copy and the notices in the file png.h that is included in the lib distribution, the latter shall prevail. Copyright notice, disclaimer, and license. If you modify libpng, you may insert additional notices immediately following this sentence. This code is released under the lib license. LibPNG versions 1.2.6, August 15, 2004 through 1.5.4, July 7, 2011, a copyright 2004, 2006, and 2011 Glenn Randers Person, and are distributed according to the same disclaimer and license as LibPNG 1.2.5, with the following individual added to the list of contributing authors. Cosmin Truta. LibPNG versions 1.0.7, July 1, 2000 through 1.2.5, October 3, 2002, are copyrighted 2000 to 2002 Glenn Randers Person, and are distributed according to the same disclaimer and license as LibPNG 1.0.6, with the following individuals added to the list of contributing authors. Simon Pierre Cadieux, Eric S. Raymond, Gilles Volant, and with the following additions to the disclaimer. There is no warranty against interference with your enjoyment of the library or against infringement. There is no warranty that our efforts at the library will fulfill any of your particular purposes or needs. This library is provided with all faults, and the entire risk of satisfactory quality, performance, accuracy, and effort is with the user. LibPNG version 0.97, January 1998 through 1.0.6, March 20, 2000, a copyright 1998, 1999, Glenn Randers Person, and are distributed according to the same disclaimer and license as LibPNG 0.96, with the following individuals added to the list of contributing authors. Tom Lane, Glenn Randers Person, he was already there, he's the copyright holder, why does he need to be added a second time? Willem von Schaik, LibPNG version 0.89, June 1996 through 0.96, May 1997, a copyright 1996-1997, Andreas Dilger, distributed according to the same disclaimer and license as LibPNG 0.88, with the following individuals added to the list of contributing authors. John Bowler, Kevin Bracey, Sam Bushell, Magnus Holmgren, Greg Roloffs, Tom Tanner.
Okay, as you were.
LibPNG version 0.5, May 1995 through 0.88, January 1996, a copyright 1995-1996, Guy Eric Schalnat, Group 42, Inc. For the purposes of this copyright and license, contributing authors is defined as the following set of individuals. Andreas Dilger, David Martindale, Guy Eric Schalnat, Paul Schmidt, Tim Wegner. The PNG reference library is supplied as is. The contributing authors in Group 42, Inc. disclaim all warranties, express or implied, including without limitation the warranties of merchantability and of fitness for any purpose. The contributing authors in Group 42, Inc. assume no liability for direct, indirect, incidental, special, exemplary, or consequential damages which may result from the use of the PNG reference library, even if advised on the possibility of such damages. Permission is hereby granted to use, copy, modify, and distribute this source code or portions hereof for any purpose without fee, subject to the following restrictions. The origin of this source code must not be misrepresented. Altered versions must be plainly marked as such and must not be misinterpreted as being the original source. 3. This copyright notice may not be removed or altered from any source or altered source distribution. The contributing authors in Group 42 Inc. specifically permit without fee and encourage the use of this source code as a component to supporting the PNG file format in commercial products. If you use this source code in a product, acknowledgement is not required but would be appreciated. A PNG_get_copyright function is available for convenient use in about boxes and the like. Printf PNG_get_copyright null in parentheses. Also the PNG logo in PNG format, of course, is supplied in the files pngbar.png and pngbar.jpg 88x31 and pngnow.png 98x31. LibPNG is OSI certified open source software. OSI certified open source is a certification mark of the open source initiative. Glenn Randers person. Glenn RP at users.sourceforge.net. July 7, 2011. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to LibPNG 4.1.3, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7. Begin of license. The GIFLib distribution is copyright 1997, Eric S. Raymond. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of this software and associated documentation files of the software to deal in the software without restriction, including without limitation the right to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of the software and to permit persons to whom the software is furnished to do so subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies or substantial portions of the software. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall the authors or copyright holders be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in an action of contract, tort, or otherwise, arising from, out of, or in connection with the software or the use or other dealings in the software. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to LittleCMS 2.0, which is included with OpenJDK 7. Begin of license, LittleCMS. Copyright 1998 to 2010, Marti Maria Saguer. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software and associated documentation files of the software to deal with the software without restriction, including without limitation the right to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of this software and to permit persons to whom the software is furnished to do so, subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies of substantial portions of the software. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall the authors or copyright holders be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in action of contract, tort, or otherwise, arising from or out of or in connection with the software or the use or other dealings in the software. End of license. Lucida is a registered trademark or trademark of Bigelow and Holmes in the US and other countries. This notice is provided with respect to Mesa 3D Graphics Library version 4.1, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7 source distributions. Begin of license, Mesa 3D Graphics Library version 4.1. Copyright 1999, 2002, Brian Ball, all rights reserved. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of the software and associated documentation files of the software to deal with the software without restriction, including without limitation the right to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of the software and to permit persons to whom the software is furnished to do so subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies or substantial portions of the software. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall Brian Paul be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in an action of contract, tort, or otherwise arising from, out of, or in connection with the software or the use or other dealings in the software, or the use or other dealings in the software. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to PC SC Lite for SUSE Linux version 1.1.1, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7 on Linux and Solaris, begin of license, copyright 1999-2004, David Kokorin, kokorin@linuxnet.com, copyright 1999-2004, Ludovic Rousseau, ludovic.rousseau@free.fr. All rights reserved, redistribution and in source and binary forms with or without modification are permitted, provided that the following conditions are met. 1. Redistributions of source code must retain the above copyright notice, this list of conditions and the following disclaimer. 2. Redistributions in binary form must reproduce the above copyright notice, this list of conditions and the following disclaimer in the documentation and or other materials provided with the distribution. 3. All advertising materials mentioning features or use of this software must display the following acknowledgement. This product includes software developed by David Kokorin, kokorin@linuxnet.com, www.linuxnet.com, muscle. The name of the author may not be used to endorse or promote products derived from this software without specific written permission. Changes to this license can be made only by the copyright author with explicit written consent. The software is provided by the author as is, and any connection or implied warranties, including but not limited to the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose, are disclaimed. In no event shall the author be liable for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, exemplary, or consequential damages, including but not limited to procurement of substitute goods or services, loss of use, data or profits, or business interruption, however caused and on any theory of liability, whether in contract, strict liability, or tort, including negligence or otherwise, arising in any way out of the use of this software, even if advised of the possibility of such damage. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to RelaxNG Object Parser, version 2005-05-10, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7, begin of license. Copyright Kosuke Kawaguchi. Permission is hereby granted free of charge to any person obtaining a copy of this software and associated documentation files the software to deal in the software without restriction, including without limitation the right to use, copy, modify, merge, publish, distribute, sublicense, and or sell copies of the software, and to permit the software here doesn't have it's one word when they've specified elsewhere the software, so that's a shame. Maybe that renders the whole thing void. And to permit persons to whom the software is furnished to do so subject to the following conditions. The above copyright notice and this permission notice shall be included in all copies and substantial portions of the software. The software is provided as is, without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, and non-infringement. In no event shall the authors or copyright holders be liable for any claim, damages, or other liability, whether in an action of contract, tort, or otherwise arising from or out of or in connection with the software or the use or other dealings in the software. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to RelaxNGCC version 1.12, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7, begin of license. Copyright 2000 to 2003, Daisuke Okajima and Kosuke Kawaguchi. All rights reserved. Redistribution and use in source and binary forms with or without modification are permitted, provided that the following conditions are met. 1. Redistributions of source code must retain the above copyright notice, the list of conditions, and the following disclaimer. 2. Redistributions in binary form must reproduce the above copyright notice, this list of conditions, and the following disclaimer in the documentation and or other materials provided with the distribution. 3. The end-user documentation included with the redistribution, if any, must include the following acknowledgement. This product includes software developed by Daisuke Okajima and Kosuke Kawaguchi. http://relaxngcc.sf.net/. Alternatively, this acknowledgement may appear in the software itself if and wherever such third-party acknowledgements normally appear. 4. The names of the copyright holders must not be used to endorse or promote products derived from this software without prior written permission. For written permission, please contact the copyright holders. Products derived from this software may not be called Relax NGCC, nor may Relax NGCC appear in the name without prior written permission of the copyright holders. This software is provided as is, and any expressed or implied warranties, including but not limited to the implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose, are disclaimed. In no event shall the Apache Software Foundation or its contributors be liable for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, exemplary, or consequential damages, including but not limited to the procurement of substitute goods or services, loss of use, data or profits, or business interruption, however caused, and on any theory of liability, whether in contract, strict liability, or tort, including negligence or otherwise, arising in any way out of the use of this software, even if advised of the possibility of such damage. End of license. This notice is provided with respect to Mozilla Rhino, version 1.7 R3, which is included with JRE7, JDK7, and OpenJDK7 begin of license Mozilla public license version 1.1. 1. Definitions. 1.0.1. Commercial use means distribution or otherwise making the covered code available to a third party. 1.1. Contributor means each entity that creates or contributes to the creation of modifications. 1.2. Contributor version means the combination of the original code, prior modifications used by a contributor, and the modifications made by that particular contributor. 1.3. Covered code means the original code or modifications of the combination of the original code and modifications in each case, including portions thereof. 1.4. Electronic distribution mechanism means a mechanism generally accepted in the software development community for the electronic transfer of data. 1.5. Executable means covered code in any form other than source code. 1.6. Initial developer means the individual or entity identified as the initial developer in the source code notice required by Exhibit A. 1.7. Larger work means a work which combines covered code or portions thereof with code not governed by the terms of this license. 1.8. License means this document. 1.8.1. Licensable means having the right to grant to the maximum extent possible, whether at the time of the initial grant or subsequently acquired, any and all of the rights conveyed herein. 1.9. Modifications means any addition to or deletion from the substance or structure of either the original code or any previous modifications. When covered code is released as a series of files, a modification is A, an addition or to or deletion from the contents of a file containing original code or previous modifications. B, any new file that contains any part of the original code or previous modifications. 1.10. Original code means source code of computer software code which is described in the source code notice required by Exhibit A as original code and which at the time of its release under this license is not already covered code governed by this license. 1.10.1. Patent claims means any patent claims now owned or hereafter acquired, including without limitation, method, process, and apparatus claims in any patent licensable by grantor. 1.11. Source code means the preferred form of the covered code for making modifications to it, including all modules it contains, plus any associated interface definition files, scripts used to control compilation and installation of an executable, or source code differential comparisons against either the original code or another well-known available covered code of the contributor's choice. The source code can be in a compressed form or archival form, provided the appropriate decompression or de-archiving software is widely available for no charge. 1.12. You or your means an individual or a legal entity exercising rights under and complying with all of the terms of this license or a future version of this license issued under Section 6.1. For legal entities, your includes any entity which controls, is controlled by, or is under common control with you. For purposes of this definition, control means either power, direct or indirect, to cause the direction or management of such entity, whether by contract or otherwise, or B, ownership of more than 50% of the outstanding shares or beneficial ownership of such entity. 2, source code license. 2.1, the initial developer grant. The initial developer hereby grants you a worldwide royalty-free, non-exclusive license subject to third-party intellectual property claims. A, under intellectual property rights other than patent or trademark, licensable by initial developer to use, reproduce, modify, display, perform, sub-license, and distribute the original code or portions thereof with or without modifications and or as part of a larger work. And B, under patent claims infringed by the making, using, or selling of original code, to make, have made, use, practice, sell, and offer for sale, and or otherwise dispose of the original code or portions thereof.